Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome, everybody, to the show tonight. Thank you for joining me. We're on Conservatives Cool Talk Radio. It's now officially going to be called The Wayne Bradley Show. It's 1 year on the air tonight, and I want to thank everyone that's listened in, that supported the show, that's kept me going over here over the last year. It's been a great experience. I've really talked to some just great and amazing people over the last year from all throughout the country. Some of the best people I talked to were some of the candidates that unfortunately didn't win. I mean, I've been blessed in the last year to really been able to try to make a difference, try to reach out, spread the conservative message in a way that, again, will make people listen to it instead of just turning people away. And I want to thank everyone that's listened in and been supportive over the last year. If you're listening in, I see I got someone already calling in. I'm gonna take the call real quick. Caller, you on the air? Caller, can you hear me? Caller, you're on the air. Well, if the caller speaks up, we're going to take the call. But I want to thank everyone that's listened in over the last year. It's just been a great ride. I took a couple weeks off because I was trying to, again, get some things changed up and get some new concepts and new ideas for the show, and also just trying to figure out the direction of how I'm going to take this show moving in the future. I think in the first year I had, obviously had a lot to learn, a lot to experience. Like I said, I went to some places and met people, and it helped define more of what I wanted to do, obviously, and make sure that I stayed true to myself and not just not say what people want, say what people want me to hear, but say what I really mean, say what's true, call out people on both sides of the aisle. I think that's something that has sorely been missing in media nowadays, either on both sides. You've got to be willing to call out people. I'm a conservative, I'm a proud conservative, a Republican, but there's certain things on both sides of the aisle that you've got to be willing to call out. And over the last year, I've watched the Tea Party movement that I felt that I was part of in ways, being invited to speak at different events and supporting them any way I can, watching what they did in the election. They did make a difference. Not all the candidates won, but they did make a difference, and it's just been a great thing. I want to say congratulations. Like I said, I haven't been on the air in the last couple of weeks. I want to say congratulations to Alan West, who I consider almost a personal hero of mine. I'm going to replay his interview that I had earlier in the year. I want to congratulate Tim Scott. Again, this is history. This was a historic year, and it was a great year for conservatives in general. You just saw a lot of changes. I want to say congratulations to Justin Amash here in Michigan, Dr. Dan Benishek. Again, congratulations. Bill Johnson in Ohio. There was a lot of great conservatives that got their chance. Marco Rubio, obviously, down in Florida also. I mean, this is a year that the people got to speak up and make their voices heard. And moving forward, it's going to be really interesting to see how things go in 2012. And we're going to talk about a lot of different things tonight. We're going to go about 2 hours tonight, so I hope that people will call in 347-996-3175. Again, this is the 1 year anniversary show, and I hope that some people will call in. Lexi, if you're listening out there, I hope you call in for a little while. Give me a call. Like I said, I want all my friends and, like I said, consider my family here on Twitter, Facebook. Join in tonight. Give me a call. We've got a great show. We got some great guests lined up tonight. I got a call coming in, but I'm going to just tell you real quick. We've got Saul Anuzis, who recently announced he's going to be running against Michael Steele for chairman. We've got John Yob, a national political strategist. He's done some unbelievable things. And we got some great people, Mike Bishop, Vanessa Jean Louis, and then we're going to also play the interview from Alan West. But I'm going to go ahead and take this first call real quick and see. He called before, so let me see if we can get this call. Caller, you on the air? Caller, you're on the air. The second time you called in and hung up. Okay, I'm not taking that call again. I know who's calling in, so Again, we just got a great night tonight. I've been listening in. I'm almost disappointed that I had to start at the time I did. It was a great interview going on between Lenny McAllister and Kevin Jackson from the Black Sphere. Like I said, we're going to touch on a lot of different issues tonight because I think that struck at me too. Lenny McAllister, who's highly respected, and also Kevin Jackson's highly respected for their opinions. I think that tonight, though, that Kevin, in the last day or so, he made some comments about President Obama's wife that I found were unnecessary. Now, again, I understand they have a difference in style of the way they reach people, but I think that all the disrespect from both sides has got to come to an end. That's why people are so turned off from politics in general, is because of all the ugliness that goes on. And Kevin Jackson he's on the air. I hate to even tell people because they might go listen to it, but Kevin Jackson and Lenny McAllister were just recently on the air debating the whole issue because Lenny took issue with that also, with the fact that he would disrespect the president's wife, although we might disagree probably 99% of the time with Obama's policies. I think it's way off base to personalize it and to go after a man's wife. So it's just the climate is getting rougher and rougher out here, and I hope that we can move past that. We're going to talk about that a little bit later this evening. If I can, I might even try to reach out, and I think Lenny's going to be on for pretty late tonight. He's replacing someone else. So my first guest on my show tonight is someone who I consider a friend, someone who's been a supporter of my show almost from the very beginning, someone who's helped me reach out to people and guests, and Saul Anuzis. He's the former Michigan Chairman, and he's the National Committeeman right now for Michigan. And he's been the first person to put his name in the hat to run against Michael Steele for the Republican National Chairman position. Now, there are people out here that are not satisfied with the job that Michael Steele has done, even though this year Republicans had a great year in the elections. Obviously, they didn't win all the elections they wanted to win. But there are a lot of people that, I guess, take issue with the way that he's run the campaign. His top aide just recently resigned, and not only did he quit, he bashed Michael Steele in the end. So we're going to talk about a lot of that tonight, and I'm going to go ahead and play the interview with Saul Anuzis again. I talked to him last evening about his campaign, and he's running for Republican National Chairman. Here's my interview with Saul Anuzis. Listen in. Okay, here we go. So tonight, thank you for joining me on the Wayne Bradley Show. This is my 1-year anniversary, and my guest tonight is someone that's been very supportive of my show, who's been on the show multiple times, and now is running for against Michael Steele, the RNC Chairman. My guest, Saul Anuzis. How are you doing tonight, Saul?
I'm doing great, and congratulations on your 1-year anniversary and a year of success of espousing conservative principles to the people of America.
I'm doing my best. You know, I tried to squeeze this answer out of you about a month ago about where you're going to be running for RNC Chairman. How long ago did you decide? When did you decide that you knew this was going to be the right move for you?
Well, pretty much right after the election, folks started talking about this, and the issue came up, and I talked to a couple people, and obviously I'd run once before. So, I made a couple phone calls to see what was going on, and some of my folks who supported me last time encouraged me to do it again. So it probably took about a week making some phone calls and checking things out, and decided to throw my hat in the ring again.
Great. Now, I know that in this year, actually with the success the Republicans had in this last voting cycle, what do you think that you can do differently, obviously, to improve what's going on here with the Republican Party?
Well, my argument is quite simple. I think in 2008, we elected a chairman based on the fact that we came off of 2 bad election cycles. We had no national leader. And I think that, as you know, I ran in 2008, as did Michael Steele. But he made the argument that he was a national spokesperson, that he was, a effective and well-known talking head, and that, he could be a effective face and voice of the party on behalf of the Republicans. And I think that argument carried the day at the time. Okay. And, obviously he won. Now, you push the clock 2 years forward, and we have a very different situation. We've won the House of Representatives, which means we're going to have a Speaker of a House that is ours. We've won governorships and senators. all across the country, very diverse, that represent all of America, that will be great spokespersons, faces, and voices of the party. And I think we need a different type of chairman right now. And my argument is that we've got to get back to the fundamentals. We've got to be back to the nuts and bolts of what the party should be all about, which is supporting candidates.
Right.
Well, I'm arguing that we need a chairman who can help make the trains run on time, raise the money necessary to implement the absolute best get-out-the-vote program in support of Republican candidates across the board.
Right. Now, that I guess that's been one of the most, one of the biggest criticisms has been the fundraising. And I noticed today that one of his top aides quit. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, Gentry Collins, who was the political director of the party, sent out a resignation letter today that was, quite
detailed,
controversial, so to speak, and raises a lot of questions that I think the members of the committee will be very interested in exploring and finding out exactly, get to the bottom of it, so to speak. So I think this will be a discussion that will take place over the next couple of weeks amongst Republican members. We have a budget committee coming up in December, which I think that many of these issues touch on. So I think you'll see a very open and interesting discussion there. So, but at the same time, there have been successes and failures, and I think that it's very easy to look back with 20/20 vision and second guess somebody.
Right.
That's why my argument is I'm not an anti-Steele guy per se.
Right.
I consider Michael a friend. I was the only losing candidate that came to the unity breakfast the morning after. I was the only losing candidate that joined the transition team, and I ultimately joined his team as well to help him do what I could do from within. But the circumstances changed, and I think we need a different chairman. And those of us who sit on the Republican National Committee, we are the board of directors for the National Party.
Right.
It is incumbent upon us every 2 years to review where we are, where we're going, and who's the right person to lead the party. And to me, this isn't about firing somebody. It's about hiring somebody for the next job that we have to do.
Right. And what do you think, when you say circumstances have changed in the last 2 years, what do you think, what's changed the most on the political landscape that would, obviously require new leadership at this point?
Well, I think a couple things. One is, unfortunately, Michael Steele has lost the confidence of much of the leadership in the donor community.
Okay.
Governor Haley Barbour, who's the head of the RGA, came out and said that he thought we needed change. The Speaker-elect Boehner said the same thing. Many of our major donors left the party and went to third-party groups. And that is going to be a very difficult task to, basically build the confidence back amongst those donors and those political leaders that are going to be necessary for us to raise the money. And they have very clearly said that we need change in order to do that.
Okay.
That's number one challenge. And I think number two, again, the circumstances with respect to having national spokespersons have changed. We've got a lot of people, we've elected Hispanic American governors, Indian American governors, we've got African American congressmen. We are all the way across the board very representative of America today.
Right.
We're going to have some great people representing us. So the strength and the reason that we elected Michael Steele the last time has diminished significantly, and now we need a nuts and bolts guy who's willing to raise the money and do the political work. And I think that a candidate like myself is much better suited for that. That was always my strength when I was chairman of the party here for 4 years. I've worked on a lot of campaign committees in the past. I've raised a lot of money on behalf of, the state senate, the legislature, the, Republican Party.
Right.
And I think it's that kind of expertise and knowledge and focus that's going to be needed for the next 2 years.
Now, are you worried, concerned at all about any of the negative backlash that could get from, like you said, there were some minority candidates finally, elected to Congress and to Senate, and even in some governor races. Do you think that in any kind of way that will kind of reflect negatively the fact that he's going to possibly be replaced so quickly, in the RNC Chairman position?
Well, I hope not, because look, we elected, Michael Steele, and he happened to be black. It wasn't because he was black. So there's a big difference, and I think Republicans look at our leadership in a very different way.
Right.
We approach this from a standpoint of who's the best qualified, who's in the best position to be there, and sometimes that candidate happens to be African American, other times maybe a Hispanic American, other times a white American.
Right.
We don't discriminate based on race, and we don't make our determinations based on race.
Right.
I think this has nothing to do with race. This has to do with where do we go in the future, what are the skill sets necessary. Michael Steele has every right to make the case of why maybe he can change. Maybe he can provide a different leadership and convince the members that that's a good idea. But I think the consensus amongst the committee and the consensus amongst the national leadership is that we need somebody other than Michael Steele there, and I think that's kind of where people are moving.
Right.
They're not basically judging it just on the past. They're more looking at the future, and I think that we as Republicans ought to look at the future as being very bright. And Michael Steele did a great job. He had a historic chairmanship in the sense that it was the first African-American ever elected.
Right.
He will go down in the history books as such, but now we're talking about what comes next. And, he hasn't made a final decision yet, but it looks like he's moving closer to running. And I think we're going to have to, make that case to the members of the Republican National Committee over the next 8 weeks or so.
Right. Now, something else that you're very known for, and that's kind of like how I almost got acquainted with you initially, is through social networking and your technical skills. Is that something definitely that you will be applying with your position as RNC Chairman?
Well, absolutely. I think that technology is a big part of the grassroots effort. It's a big part of what we have to do, and to me, it's a very important aspect of that. So I think that it will be center stage with respect to what I do. I don't just use it for show. I use it every day in my everyday work, in my everyday political activity, in my everyday life. And so I think technology is a tremendous tool, and it's nothing more than a tool, but a tremendous tool for political activity and for moving forward.
Did you have you seen the I don't know, I think you told me you were out in California. Have you seen the MERS headline for tonight?
Yeah, I just but I'm out here at the Republican Governors Association meeting in San Diego, and all the new Republican governors from across the country are coming together, and I hope to have a chance to meet many of them and introduce myself, because I don't know most of them with respect to the fact that I am going to be a candidate for national chairman. But look, I think that we've had a lot of battles here in Michigan, and some of them for good reasons and some of them for bad reasons, but oftentimes they're petty reasons. And I think that over the last couple of months, almost a year now, I've had conversations with John Yob, with even Chuck Yob, about where we're going and what the party's doing. And in many cases, we're on the same side on things. We share the same vision, the conservative vision for the party in this country. And so I think we have been working at trying to put aside the kind of petty differences and kind of get away from the old college Republican battlegrounds that used to dominate the political process, and say it's time to move on and do what's best for Michigan, do what's best for the country, and do what's best for our party. So we're going to try to work together, and hopefully that will be helpful for everybody involved in the process.
Yeah, I had to get a laugh out of that. It said when hell freezes over. Yob endorses.
It's probably something not a lot of people expected. But look, I've always reached out to everybody. I've tried to pull all the factions together. I've tried to be fair to everybody and involve them in the process. And I think it's a natural continuation of where we've gone. John's a smart guy. He's got a lot to offer. He's very clever and understands his process as well as as most. So it's crazy not to take advantage of people's skills and assets, and I look forward to working with them. And over time we'll build a better and better relationship, and hopefully we can bring a lot of other people who've been kind of playing in the weeds and sometimes not for constructive reasons together. So I'm cautiously optimistic and looking forward to a better and better relationship.
Excellent. And can you also, I guess for some people listening on the show, I guess they would want to hear, are you going to continue, at least from the standpoint, if you were elected RNC Chairman, some of the positive things that Chairman Steele has done as far as reaching out to the minority community? Are you going to continue in that and obviously improve on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, the country's demographics are changing. The African American community is growing, the Hispanic community is growing, the Asian community is growing. We cannot be a party of all middle-aged white men. I mean, that's just not going to work.
Right.
So I think that the advantage of the Republican Party is that we try not to look at race as being a factor. We go out and look for people who are talented and who have something to offer, irrespective of race they come from, irrespective of what gender they are. We're basically a merit-based party and a merit-based society, which I think most people agree with. And the fact that somebody happens to be Hispanic or happens to be black or happens to be white should not be the dominant factor in how we work and how we work together for the betterment of this state and the betterment of this country.
Right. Well, Saul, I'm looking forward to watching this. I know you'll do a great job if elected RNC chairman, so good luck with the campaign. And like I said, we'll continue following you on the show. You're always welcome to come back on, and I appreciate you coming on, like I said, the multiple times over the past year supporting the show, so I appreciate that, sir.
Well, thanks for having me, and once again, look, I really appreciate your efforts because I think that, you've done this show now for a year. It's been, a lot of work. I mean, you work hard in getting, some interesting guests and making sure that the conversation moves along and exposing, conservative philosophy to a lot of people that maybe, weren't exposed to it before. So, my kudos to you for all your work, and I appreciate the fact that you're helping move the conservative movement forward and spread the good word. So, thanks again. Look forward to having being with you again in the future.
All right. Thank you, Saul. Good night and good luck.
Thank you.
God bless you.
All right.
Good night.
Does that work all right?
So that was my interview with Saul Anuzis, who again is running against Michael Steele for chairman of the Republican National, the RNC chairman position. My next guest, a political guru, someone who was responsible for helping Rick Snyder win here in Michigan, Bill Schuette, Justice Bob Young. He helped a lot of people in Michigan win this election, and he's had an unbelievable impact across the country with some of his clients. Is John Yob. I'm going to give him a call right now and have him join the show. But this gentleman he has an amazing story, and I look forward to talking to him.
This is John.
John, this is Wayne Bradley. How you doing this evening?
Hey, good, man. How you doing?
Doing good. Hey, we're on the air. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Doing fantastic.
I appreciate you for coming on the show this evening. I was telling everyone, I kind of gave a brief introduction to who you were on the show. But could you tell people a little bit more about John Yob? Because there's a lot of things going on here, but I think people need to really know about you. Me and you are about the exact same age, and you've accomplished a lot so far in your career.
Well, thanks. I'd be happy to do that. I grew up in politics. My father was on the RNC for about 20 years and grew up around politics. I got myself involved in college. In high school, I was interested in other things, but in college, I picked my interest, and I got involved in college Republicans, was involved at the University of Michigan, and then ended up getting involved in the CRNC, which is the College Republican National Committee, which is a good proving ground for national GOP conservative operatives. Lee Atwater, Karl Rove, Grover Norquist, Morton Blackwell, and others rose up through those ranks and held leadership positions at the CRNC in D.C. So I ran for a position there. I ended up being what was called General Chairman and Executive Director, helping to run the office down in D.C. That was at about 22 years old. It's a pretty good position, and in those days we had about a $5 million a year budget, about 50,000 members, and thousands of chapters across the country. It's even grown even more now. It's a wonderful organization. So from there, I came back to Michigan. I started running campaigns. I opened up essentially a political polling firm when I was 23 years old, doing a lot of voter ID work, political polling, fundraising, et cetera, using computer and telephony integration, which was high tech at the time, to essentially speed up the rate at which you could make phone calls and contact voters. So did that, had some success. Helped Mike Cox get elected Attorney General that year, and ran Terry Lance's campaign for Secretary of State that year. Had a good year. Continued to have some success throughout the cycles. Did Terry Lance's campaign again in 2006, and in 2005 started with John McCain, first as his Great Lakes political director, and then eventually becoming Deputy National Political Director and National Political Director during the presidential primaries. Then I moved over to work on the National Convention. So that's pretty much the history. This cycle, we were the general consultant for Rick Snyder's campaign for governor here in Michigan. Also had consulting roles on several other campaigns like Sharon Engel out in Nevada and Bill Schuette in Michigan, and had a little role in O'Donnell's Get Out the Vote in the primary campaign. But most pertinent for this topic, I think, is we're fairly well known for having disagreements with Saul over the years. That's been unfortunate, and I thought it was time to try to unite the party the best I could and to get behind him because I think he's the right guy for the job. Right.
Now, one thing, while you were naming the numerous positions that you've held over the years, how do you, from a time management, I'm just curious myself, how do you manage all these different campaigns and all these different places? How do you manage to do that?
Sure. Well, I don't manage them all. I have different roles in different campaigns. It depends on the circumstances of the individual campaign. But we do have a pretty big staff. It's Strategic National is my company. We have offices in Grand Rapids, and then I'm actually down in Florida now, and we're opening an office down here. But we have a pretty good-sized staff. In the heat of an election, it's about 12 people. It can be a few more, and then we go down to 4 or 5. And maybe 6 in the off season, depending on what all campaigns we have for off-year elections around the country, and how involved we are in the party races as well.
Right. Now, that was kind of like the headline. It said that the exact quote was, "Hell must have froze over because John Yob has endorsed Saul Anuzis." And like you said, you feel like he was the man for the position. What finally made you come to that conclusion?
Well, frankly, when you're at odds with somebody for so long in politics, sometimes you get to a point where you stop and think and you wonder why it is you're at odds. And it's been so long, and it's been going on for about 6 or 7 years where we were vehemently disagreeing with each other. And in that time, in the last 2 years in particular, we've sort of talked at events and met and sort of talked things through, and both come to the conclusion that we agree on more than we disagree on. And frankly, we're both similar in a lot of ways, and maybe that's why we had some strong disagreements at times. But we're similar. We're similar in a lot of ways. We're both sort of high tech. We both are somewhat known for using technology in political campaigns, and so I think we have a lot in common. And frankly, I think he's good at what he does. He almost single-handedly moved party leaders towards the use of social media, Twitter, and Facebook, and blogging across the country. His political communication skills are unmatched, and frankly, I don't think anyone else is even close.
I agree with that.
I really think he's the right guy for the job, and eventually you've got to, do what's right for the party rather than maybe in your own self-interest. I'm not sure the best thing for me is Saul Anuzis being elected RNC chairman. We've had a lot of disagreements over the years. I'm not sure that's the case. I'm not sure what staff he'll hire and whether I get along with them or not. But what I do know is he's the right guy for the job, and so I'm going to put the past behind us and do everything I can to help him get elected. And I have a number of friends on the RNC, and I know a lot of folks around the country, and so I think I'll be helpful to him.
I'm sure you will, and that's a pretty strong statement because realistically, like you said, you don't know how good that's going to be for you down the road, but you realize he's the best man for the job. Because that's one of the things I was going to ask you about. I mean, over the years, you guys have obviously clashed on certain candidates and things like that, but you still believe that he's the best man for the job. What do you think that Michael Steele in particular has fell short on, and why there needs to be a new RNC chairman?
Well, I think he made a lot of gaffes. He made a lot of obvious mistakes that set him back, and those mistakes, I think, prevented him from getting the large donor community behind him. At the party level, especially nationally, you've essentially got two bases of financial support. You've got the small donors that come in through the mail and now are starting to come in through the internet in real numbers, especially this cycle, as we saw it on a campaign basis with O'Donnell and Engel. But essentially at the RNC, you've got two sets of money, flows of money. You've got the small donors that come in through the mail, a little bit of telephones, and then internet. And then you've got the large donors where you're going after for $100,000, $250,000, even bigger numbers, the Eagles clubs, Team 100, those types of groups. essentially his gaffes and other mistakes, and maybe just his lack of effort, I'm not sure, but I'm sure the gaffes had a big part of it, essentially prevented him from raising money from those big contributions. And that's where a lot of the profit dollars come from. You know, when you raise $1 through the mail, it might cost you $1 to get that $1. It might cost you only 70 cents to get that $1, but that's still only 30 cents of profit. And when you're raising money in big chunks, those are profit dollars. And so that's where a lot of the dollars that actually go into TV campaigns and actually go in to get out the vote effort to go. And so, you know, I think he fell way behind in that area. I know on the Angle campaign in Nevada, we didn't have the money that we needed on the ground through the victory operations. And frankly, Jim DeMint, South Carolina, came in and helped fund the victory operation because the RNC didn't have the money to do it. But you know, I'm confident had we had a little more money, maybe we would have pulled it off. In terms of the get out the vote operation, and certainly there was congressional races around the country that had the same scenario. So, you know, Steele supporters say that, you know, they had historic wins. Yeah, but I bet we would have had another 20 seats in Congress and possibly a couple more Senate seats had those victory operations been fully funded.
Yeah, that I guess that was what I was kind of getting at, wondering about was, you know, you being on the ground and, you know, and working with these campaigns, so you saw firsthand what the lack of funds could do to the campaigns, obviously.
Absolutely, especially the victory operations. You know, those operations where folks go in and make those phone calls, and those volunteer phone calls, in some cases paid phone calls, those are important to turning out voters. You know, that can increase voter turnout by 2 or 3%, which makes a lot of difference in elections. A lot of elections are decided by 2%. Rocky Washkowski there in Oakland County would have won with another 1.5 points. And so those are important phone calls. And although they're volunteers making them, those phone systems cost money. And so, you know, the more of those phone systems we have in those phone centers across the country, the more volunteers can make phone calls, the more Republicans we can get elected.
Right. What do you know? You're obviously in the field right now. What are you predicting for 2012? I know you kind of worked with Sarah Palin a little bit. Do you think she's going to run for president in 2012 yet?
I don't have any inside information there. I've worked with her folks on some things, and I know a lot of the people involved there from the McCain campaign. You know, I tend to think she will run. I know yesterday, I guess it was, she came out and said that she was giving it serious consideration. I think she will run, and I think she's a very formidable candidate. I know I do a lot of convention work and caucus work, as you probably know. And I can say that if I were trying to run a campaign against Sarah Palin at a caucus or a convention, I'd be very worried because you know, grassroots conservatives and Tea Party activists across the country like her and identify with her, and they'll show up in numbers, whereas maybe some of the other candidates' potential supporters maybe don't turn out as much in caucuses and convention states. So as long as a caucus state like Iowa is first in the process, she's got an excellent chance. I think she'd be an excellent candidate for Iowa. I think she'd be an excellent candidate in South Carolina, any other caucus states across the country. And you know, I've heard the line of argument that maybe New Hampshire isn't a strong state for her. But, you know, she supported that Kelly Ayotte out there, and she won by, I think, 20 points. And ran as a conservative. So I think she's got some great inroads into New Hampshire as well. But I haven't taken sides in that race. I really haven't. That's not just spin. I haven't taken sides in that race yet.
What's next on the plate for John Yao? What's going on with you now that the election cycles have kind of tuned down?
Well, frankly, it's time to relax and recharge the batteries and spend some time with the family. I've got a wife and a 2.5-year-old daughter, and my wife's pregnant. And when I'm on the road in the campaigns, I don't get to spend much time with them. So I'm doing my best to spend some time with them here in November and over the holidays, simultaneously doing some work on the party races, both in Michigan and obviously the RNC race here. And then,
let me congratulate you. I know you're having a son. You're so lucky. I've got 2 girls.
Thank you very much. I'm excited that he's going to be due March 1st. We had a C-section the first time, and so they schedule it the second time. So it's about 8:30 in the morning on March 1st.
Congratulations.
Very excited.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You know, I couldn't let you. I had one more question. I couldn't let you get off the phone that easy. This is probably my toughest question for you for the night.
Okay.
What's going on with your Wolverines, John?
Yeah, I know. It's tough. You know, I was very excited at the beginning of the season. I haven't had season tickets in a few years, several years, and a week before the season started, I called and got them and went to the first few games, and boy, I was heartbroken at that Michigan State game.
That was a beautiful day there, John. That was a beautiful day.
No, it was
I'm
not. I do think Denard Robinson's the real deal, though. I think frankly our backup is a good quarterback too, but I do think Denard Robinson is a real deal, but I think he's got very little help. I think when Rich Stroud had the disagreements with some of the players 2 years ago, and a lot of them left, I think that's really hurting our team today. We could sure use those D-backs and linebackers and whatnot that we left. So, we've got a team with a couple of good players. Robinson can't do it on his own, but he'll be a great quarterback in a couple of years here, I think.
All right. Well,
and hopefully we'll get a rebound.
That. You might have to bring in Les Miles to improve that program. It's looking pretty bad over there right now, but we're going to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, it is. It's bad.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show tonight. Hopefully we can have you come back on again. Like I said, maybe we can keep an eye on this RNC race and talk about some of the things that's coming up here in the next year or two. Because again, I know you're going to be all over the place, so I can count on that. You'll be a great person to talk to about what's going on out here. So thank you so much for coming on. This is my 1-year anniversary show too, so I really appreciate you coming on tonight.
Okay, sounds good. Congratulations, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right, John. Have a good evening.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. That was John Yob. It's going to be a very interesting race for this RNC Chairman position. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that's going to turn out. Obviously, I have a more personal relationship with Saul Anuzis, so from that standpoint, I'll be honest on that and see what happens. But Michael Steele's from where I stand, he's done a good job. He's brought a little more diversity to the party. He's brought some new faces who won. And again, I guess I can understand that, seeing what happened with Rocky losing so close, that people have their opinions on how this is going to be done. But I'm looking forward to that race and seeing what's going to happen with that, because Saul might not be the last person that throws their hat into the race. So we're going to see over the next couple of weeks what happens. Again, it didn't look good that his top aide quit and then blasted him on top of that, talking about the financial issues. So hopefully in the next week we'll have Chairman Steele on the show. I hope to bring him on and he can talk about his campaign. So we're gonna have some fun with that. I'm looking forward to that. Let me see here. I got a caller coming on the air. Oh, that's my next guest, Vanessa Jean Louis. Let me bring her on the show. Vanessa, how you doing?
Hi, Wayne. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for calling in. I was just about to call you, but I appreciate you for calling in. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. I just got off listening to the exchange that Lenny McAllister and Kevin Jackson were having in regards to a photo posted of Michelle Obama.
Oh my goodness!
On Facebook.
I was almost mad that I had to start at 9. I was listening to it up until that very last minute I went on the air there. How did the rest of that interview go? I'm very interested to hear about that.
Well, Lenny was asking Kevin how the picture is going to help sort of bridge the gap between the Republican Party and the black community, and Kevin was saying that, he has a different style than other people's styles, and that It was humorous to him, it was parody, and that, that was his right to do so. I guess the main difference between the two of them, and I actually agree with Lenny on this issue, the main difference between the two of them is sort of how much of a connection that one may feel to the black community and the black experience. And I know as conservatives, we tend to sort of try to gloss over the race issue and that we're all Americans, but at the same time, there are certain issues that disproportionately affect us, and I will turn the, lever for a Republican, but that doesn't mean that I completely negate, my roots and my heritage and my ethnicity and my consciousness. So.
Yes, indeed. Now I think that's something that is probably, like you said, is not talked about enough. We kind of, as black conservatives, we kind of stay away from the race issues a little bit because it's almost counterproductive to what we're trying to do. But at times you really do have to, almost do a look yourself in the mirror and realize what's going on. And I agree with Lenny on this one too. That I just don't think there's any place for black conservatives, and that goes for anybody really, to speak in disrespectful ways about the president's wife, those are personal attacks. Again, those, like you said, it doesn't build bridges. It's not going to really bring anyone. You might have people that are willing to listen to black conservatives, but then you say something like that will turn off people. And I didn't hear the rest of the interview, but Kevin was very defensive early on from what I was listening to.
Right.
He was very defensive about his stands. And then they do have different styles, but, I mean, when you start, he was comparing himself to Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart and people like that. And I didn't find it funny, I guess, is this what where I would leave it at.
Yeah, I didn't think it was funny either. I was actually very, very much offended by it. Because my feelings are, obviously we're working at a disadvantage already by virtue of not being Democrats and by not being liberals as black people who are very much part of the black community. And one of the issues that we talk about, but I don't really think white conservatives really understand, is the whole selling out and not identifying or connecting with the black experience is a big deal. And what I find is that's really what separates us. And to see a picture like that, to see a picture of Michelle Obama, juxtaposed to two smaller white women, I mean, even as a conservative Republican, I felt uncomfortable. So then what happens to the Democrats who are looking, or the Democrats and the independents who are looking, you know what, let me see what these Republicans have to offer, and then they see something like that. Then it just makes things difficult. And instead of talking about the issues, why conservatism makes more sense than liberalism, we get stuck, defending comments that are made or defending things that are posted. And the most important thing about the show tonight, in my opinion, because I'm not knocking Kevin Jackson's hustle. If he has every right to post whatever he wants on his Facebook page, I'm not upset. But the important thing about the show tonight is that I think Lenny's audience saw that there was a difference in black conservatives. A lot of times black conservatives get on television and, everybody thinks, oh, well, we all think the same. But no, we are not a monolith. We have different opinions. Some of us identify with the black experience and some of us don't. We may all vote the same again, but we are very, very different. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because, again, I'm not knocking Kevin either. I've had him on my show before. I respect the fact that he's been able to propel his voice and get opportunities to speak in places that otherwise a lot of other people aren't. And I just think that, in that situation, I think that was just maybe bad judgment. Again, I understand where he's coming from, saying he's a comedian or he does satire. But I think you have to look at it. Is it funny? Is that appropriate? I mean, and his argument, from what I heard, like I said, I didn't hear the whole interview because I went on the air at 9. His argument is that liberals do it all the time, and I'm saying, well, that's what defines us from not being them and not playing that game. And if you're gonna make yourself seem like if you think better than them, you have a better idea how to do things, you can't run along and do the exact same thing that they're doing. And again, I don't see anybody else. I haven't seen too many people making comments about Michelle Obama's body and things like that. So it was a little disappointing that a black man would be the first one to step out and do that. But no one else I don't think anybody else would be comfortable to do that, to be honest. I just don't think that.
But I think even if the picture was I was kind of evaluating sort of what made me kind of have such a visceral reaction to the picture. If it was just Michelle Obama by herself, I don't like her outfit or whatever, because, Michelle Obama is not exactly what we would consider, a beautiful woman. I think she's all right looking. I'm not, it doesn't. First of all, my opinion of her looks don't matter. Like, Barack Obama obviously loves her and everything. But if it was kind of like attacking the way she dresses, because sometimes I think her outfits are hit or miss, it's fine. But again, to juxtapose her physique, her body type, to two smaller European women, and then not expect for anyone to assume that there's some type of racial undertones, undercurrents, I feel is a little bit, I just don't understand how that wouldn't be something that he would think about. But if we listen to his interview, he did say that he does not care that Barack Obama is the first black president. And he doesn't.
I heard that. I did hear that, too. I did hear that. And, again, that's probably where I would draw the line. I care. Because like we were talking about a little bit earlier, I think that Barack Obama, he's the Jackie Robinson. He broke the door in not just for black Democrats, but for black politicians in general to have more of a voice. And then, I'll be honest, the reason why a lot of us are actually being given an opportunity now to have a voice is because of some of the, maybe the fallout or whatever, the neutralizing of, trying to neutralize Barack Obama. Black conservatives have benefited from that. I mean, I just don't think that 4 years ago when George Bush was president that me, Kevin Jackson, we might not have been given the opportunities to speak at some of the places we've spoken at, and I don't think that it would have been as valued as much as it is now. So I think we don't need to abuse those privileges by doing things like, of that nature. That's kind of like where I stand on that.
Right.
I don't think that anybody would even care, in a way, if Barack Obama wasn't president.
It definitely set the tone. It definitely set the tone for us to kind of evaluate, sort of the representation that different demographics have in different political movements. And just to switch the topic just a little bit, but kind of keep it with the same tone, I really believe the reason why I became a conservative, I mean, you know my story, and we've all had similar stories, is when we think about the liberal monopoly, when we think about the fact that liberals have monopolized the inner cities and the black communities for the last 40 or 50 years, and how we're not holding the establishment accountable, those types of things need to be talked about, even in the face of there being the first, black president. And that dialogue is beginning to take place, because if we think about it, black unemployment was 12.6% in January of 2009, and now it hovers around 17 to 18%. So a lot of black people that were like, yeah, hope and change and hope, and yes, we can, are like, wait a minute, hold up. This is not what I signed up for. And this is the ripe time for us as black conscious conservatives to go out and say, look, we respect all of the accomplishments that Obama's had. We respect the fact that he's a good father. We respect the fact that he's a good husband. But we really need to evaluate if, raising taxes, if raising taxes or over-regulating is going to help us be able to take care of ourselves. And what I always pose to people and what I challenge conservatives to do is to not talk about things like, taxes on the rich and redistribution of wealth. We need to take things a step further and really connect to people what higher taxes mean. What I try to tell people who are not Republicans and conservatives is, well, guess what? If that business owner down the street has to give more money to Uncle Sam, that means that single mother has to pay more for her groceries. And we don't want that during an economic downturn.
Right, exactly. And I think those are the things that you can pick at Obama about all day and would not be wrong. I think that it's all about policy. If Obama tomorrow decided he was going to move more to the center and do things that were right for the whole country, I wouldn't criticize him for that. I mean, I want to see him do that. But it just seems that, again, he has his own ideology about the way he wants to do things, which I disagree with. But, again, I don't see any way where I have a right to talk about that man's wife. You know, at the end of the day, that's his wife, and he's the president. I mean, we're not just talking about anybody. That is the president of the United States. And again, I can't think of any policy that I can agree with him on, but I think you leave the wife and kids out of it. I think and like I said, I think that's what disappointed me most about that. For someone to have he has a prominent voice amongst black conservatives, and I think we could have done without that one. And it makes it harder for everyone else. It makes it harder for me or you to go and talk to people because they're going to bring that up. People will bring that up. What's up with your boy Kevin Jackson talking about Obama's wife? And I think that's in our community. That's what makes it a little bit harder. That makes it a challenge, I should say.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and again, what I would say is, well, I disagree with him on that point, but there's certain things that I do agree with him on. But Kevin Jackson has. I'm sorry.
I said, no question, we agree with him on some things, but it's like
right. Well, the thing is, he has his audience. He has, his things that he does. And again, I just want to stress the fact that I am not knocking his hustle. But more importantly than the picture has nothing to do with unemployment. The picture has nothing to do with the fact that, recently a study came out about how the black there's such a disparity between black-white test scores. And, the picture has nothing to do with the fact that, in the cities, because of liberal bureaucracies, our kids are not able to globally compete. So I really believe that if we can stick to the issues again, and we can come together with the people on the other side. Look, we both see the problem, okay, but I just don't necessarily think that government is the answer to those problems. Let's try to, look to some other alternatives, because we've tried the whole government thing for 40 or 50 years, and we see that it's not necessarily giving us the type of results that we want.
Not working. Now, I wanted to talk. We've talked about Lenny and Kev for a while here. Let's talk about you. You've had an amazing. This is my year anniversary show here tonight, and someone that we met each other at CPAC last year.
Right.
You've had an amazing journey over the last year. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Oh, well, I started blogging 2 years ago out of frustration that people were telling me that by virtue of being black that I have to support Obama. I wanted to live Dr. Martin Luther King's dream, which is to judge people based on the content of their character. And in Barack Obama's case, I don't know his character, but based on his voting record. And so, like I said, I started a blog, and I started kind of venting, about certain conversations that I would have with liberals. And eventually, it sort of picked up steam on Facebook, and I met Dr. Kevin Johnson, who's national. Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening. Oh, yeah, I'm here.
I'm sorry, not Dr. Kevin Johnson. What am I saying? Thinking about Kevin Jackson. But Dr. Timothy Johnson, who is who is the national chairman for the Frederick Douglass Foundation, and he gave me the opportunity to sit on a panel in March of this year. A few months later, I spoke at the Unity Party, and then I went to the Glenn Beck rally. I also spoke at Smart Girl Politics Summit in Red Bank, New Jersey, and I went to the Glenn Beck rally, and a conversation, an exchange, a very heated exchange, was caught by the makers of the Runaway Slave documentary, and they posted it on YouTube, and it got, it went viral. And the exchange was basically me, talking about abortion and talking about the fact that I was so annoyed that the protesters who came to the Glenn Beck rally were so concerned about Glenn Beck, and they weren't even trying to hold the liberal Democrats who've been running the show in their communities, in our communities, accountable for some of the some of the social pathologies. So anyway, needless to say,
I saw people just scattering from you after you started getting into business. I saw a lot of people just walking away.
Well, again, just playing off of the theme tonight, if you don't let liberals monopolize the dialogue, a lot of times they do a good job putting us on the defense. they'll say things like, well, what about Republicans in Glenn Beck? Well, Glenn Beck ain't got nothing to do with any of our issues. Conservatives and Republicans have very little, if anything at all, to do. So let's talk about the fact that we're under 13% of the population, yet we're over 40% of the abortions in this country. Okay, let's talk about the fact that the Democrats that they support are blocking educational reform via charter schools and educational choice vouchers. And then they said, well, that I'm they called me a house Negro. And my question was, well, I work in the hood. I work in the inner city. Ever since I finished graduate school, I've been working as a counselor. I was a guidance counselor in Florida, and now I'm a behavioral counselor in a middle school. So, you can't call me a Tom because I'm there with you. I just have a different perspective on the solutions. And, again, as you see in the footage, when I started to talk about, things like the deterioration of the black family and how that was caused by the war on poverty policies, they sort of kind of walked away from me. So.
Right. Yeah, they don't. Like I said, a lot of liberals do not want the truth to start actually being spread. They don't want to hear about that. Now, I saw you've been speaking at some Tea Party events. What's that been like? I'm sure. How was your experience at the Tea Party events?
Well, actually, I was a skeptic of the Tea Party movement. If you go back to some of my writings earlier this year, specifically after Tom Tancredo's comments about going back to the days of literacy tests, I was like, wait a minute. I agree with everything that's being said, but we can't talk about, going back to civics literacy tests because those were instruments used against black people. Because I was annoyed that not enough was being said to sort of say, well, this is not what the Tea Party represents. But eventually I got a call from Michael Massey, who's the chairman of Project 21, and he said, look, I'm coming to speak in New Jersey. I'd like you to come with me. So I said, well, you know what, let me not, just be critical from a distance. Let me actually go and see for myself. So I went, and I realized that the way the mainstream media caricatured the Tea Party movement was kind of wrong. Now, I was still skeptical, but not necessarily of the people, but of my place. Is this really, do I necessarily belong in this movement?
Right.
And eventually, I really started to pay attention to, again, the way the mainstream media was sort of, in essence they were caricaturing them the same way they caricature people of color. They were presenting stereotypical images, and I sort of had to hold the mirror up to myself like, well, Vanessa, if you don't want, black people being judged based on media portrayals, and you can't necessarily do the same thing to the Tea Party movement. Eventually, I was asked to speak at the Unity Party in Philadelphia, and that was a phenomenal event. That was one of those events that was sort of trying to really reach out and sort of counter a lot of the negativity that was being promulgated by the mainstream media. And so I've been speaking at these events. I actually shared the stage with Judge Napolitano and Glenn Beck October 2nd at Six Flags Great Adventures. And it's just really awesome to network and be around like-minded people. And the fact that I was a skeptic and then went for myself and saw, wait a minute, this is not what they're showing is not how these people are, I think has sort of given me the opportunity to express to people who are skeptical that, hey, guess what? I felt the same way you did at one point, but I went and I saw for myself, and I would encourage you to be able to do the same thing.
Yeah, I remember the first event I got invited to speak to. It was like 2 hours outside Detroit on a dirt road out somewhere in the sticks somewhere, and I remember being a little shook up, like, oh, I don't know about this. I don't know. And me and one of my friends drove up there, and it was just a great experience. I spoke at their meeting, and the people were receptive to to what I was saying. And again, like I said, I was probably a little apprehensive in the beginning, but it turned out to be a great experience.
Exactly.
And I'm glad you had sounds like you had similar experiences to that. And I want to tell you myself personally how proud I am when I see you out there, telling it exactly how it is. And again, there's certain things you don't want to touch upon because you're not political. You're about making actual changes in the community. And I really respect that.
Yeah, thank you, Wayne. I really appreciate that, brother. I love what you're doing too. I mean, it says a lot when we're actually trying to, walk the talk. It's one thing to, put things on Facebook and to blog, but it's another thing for people in our communities to see us as conservatives and Republicans trying to push for change and trying to stay above the drama. And we're human, we're fallible. Sometimes I get sucked into the drama too. But at the end of the day, I'm just really concerned about making sure that the black community and the inner cities really see a conservative paradigm shift.
Oh man, I look forward to that day. And it's a good thing, that we probably will have a part in that, because it's going to take a lot of hard work, and it's going to take it from a lot of different people. But I think if we stay on the course we're on now, I think over in our lifetime, we're definitely going to see some changes. Right,
definitely.
Well, I tell you what, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Again, this is my 1-year anniversary, and I called you on the fly, and I appreciate you for coming on tonight.
No problem. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. I can't wait to see you at CPAC this year so we can kick it.
Definitely. I will see you there. Thank you again, and I'm going to keep following you and making good luck out there. Keep doing the good job that you're doing.
You too. God bless you, brother. Bye.
God bless you too. So that's my sister right there. Vanessa Jean Louis. She makes it happen. She's really involved. And again, I think that's what, as African American conservatives, we've got to do, is we've got to show that, if we really want to make some changes in our community and really want to do some things, it's going to take us being active, not being negative, not trying to make people feel, condemn people for having different political beliefs than us, but sharing what we believe to be right, and hoping that we can convey it in a way that people can process it and accept it. And I think the biggest thing that we can all agree on is that the educational systems in large urban areas are broken. And a lot of that comes from a systemic issue between teachers' unions, the societal community issues that we have. I mean, there's a lot of community issues that we have to look at ourselves and have to fix. But we can't, black conservatives in general cannot look down on that kind of plight and think that's going to work and that's going to be effective. So Vanessa's doing just a great job, where she's at out there in Jersey, and she's doing a great job making a difference. Like you said, being in the community. And when she spoke at the Glenn Beck, they spoke together at different events. And if you saw her at the Glenn Beck rally, I'm gonna post a YouTube video again of that evening, that confrontation, because again, liberals get to say whatever they want and never are challenged, and it was just good to see that. So, Vanessa, thanks again for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. We're gonna have you come back up on again. I'll see you at CPAC. My next guest that I'm going to call on the show, again, this is my 1-year anniversary show, so we're running a little late this evening. I'm going to call the last Senate Majority Leader of the House in Michigan, Senator Mike Bishop, someone who I consider, again, someone a friend, just a great man that did a lot to try to help fix Michigan in his time. And I'm going to talk to him and see what he has on the agenda. I've been trying to get him to give me some information. Maybe tonight we'll be able to get it out of him. I want to know what his plans are. I've heard his name mentioned for some different things, and we're going to talk to him tonight and see what Senator Mike Bishop has next on the agenda. So I'm about to call him now. Hope everyone's listening in. Thank you for everyone that has been listening here on my, on the 1-year anniversary show. we didn't get that call to come in yet, so hopefully I'll have Senator Bishop calling in very shortly. But again, I want to take some time out to really reflect a little bit on so far on this last year and how the show has grown through, like I said, throughout Twitter and throughout Facebook. And I just want to thank everyone that's listened in, everyone that's supported me one way or the other, whether through listening, donations to the website, and again, just spreading the word. I really appreciate that. Without you guys, I don't have a show, and again, I'm doing this just to spread the message, to give candidates throughout the country. During the election, it was really an awesome experience having different people on the show like Les Phillips, who again I thought was going to be a great congressman, Sean Beelet, Alero Pantano, Bill Randall. Those guys were great, and again, I hope that most of those men run again in 2012 because the country needs more people like that. We saw Alan West; he won, and again, that was probably one of my favorite interviews of the year. But we made some progress this year with with good conservative candidates throughout the country. And again, it's just more time you give these Democrats to spin. You're going to give more conservatives an opportunity to win in 2012. It's going to be a very interesting presidential election in 2012. I've got a couple. I'm putting it out here first. Mike Pence, I think, is going to be a great candidate for president. Sarah Palin, I don't know if she's going to throw her hat in there or not, but if I was betting on it, I would say she is. Mitt Romney, of course, he'll be running for president, I'm sure. But Mike Pence is someone I think a lot of people in America need to pay attention to. He's undoubtedly conservative, and he votes with the people in mind. So I think you got to watch out for him. Mike Huckabee, I'm sure he'll get in the race again. But right now, if I had to pick someone, someone that's not exactly the most popular person right now, but he's won in some of the polls. He won at the Southern Leadership Conference poll and at the Family Values poll. So I shouldn't say that, not the most popular. Mike Pence has won some of the more respected polls over the last couple months, and it's going to be very interesting to see what's going on. I took a couple weeks off from the show, to reflect and watch what was going on. I really wanted to see. I was very comfortable in the fact that the Republicans were going to win a lot of those seats in 2010, and they did. They didn't win all of them. Rocky here in the 9th District here in Michigan lost by like 1 or 2%. I mean, I think it was less than 2,000 votes. And those are the kind of things that John Yabb was speaking on about making sure that doesn't happen again. But Republicans still had a very strong cycle in 2010, and now the pressure is going to be on them. I heard Marco Rubio say that this is a second chance. Don't look at this as a victory for Republicans. Look at it as a second chance, and it's going to be really interesting to see how people handle things. I know that that the Republicans aren't going to want to play. They're not going to want to negotiate right now with President Obama. So it's going to be very interesting. I don't think that it's a good thing for America that none of our leaders are working together. Not necessarily. Again, President Obama is going to have to move to the center if he ever wants to get anything done. And he's got people on the left that are mad at him because he hasn't gone far left enough. There are people complaining about his not pushing hard enough for Don't Ask, Don't Tell to be repealed. I mean, he's in a tough situation because he realizes now that he's going to have to play ball with John Boehner, and to be honest, I don't know how much John Boehner is going to work with President Obama in any fashion to get anything done, even if it's possibly a good policy. So I'm going to be very interested to watch that. A lot of political theatrics are still going to be going on here over the course of the next 2 years because Again, Mitch McDonald, I think from Virginia, said that his goal was to make sure that President Obama was going to be a one-term president. And I don't think that he needs to worry about that. I think he needs to worry about creating policy. If Obama is going to continue doing what he's doing, he'll be a one-term president anyway, and that won't be an issue. I don't think that our elected officials, but again, when I talk to some people, they're all for that. They like that, that's how he feels, and they're fine with that. So there are certain people and certain factions that, that are satisfied with that. So you just gotta. It's gonna be a very interesting next 2 years. I'm hoping that the president's gonna realize that some of these things, but that are just too far left, that aren't gonna work here, and people are speaking up. He said that also Nancy Pelosi, who's also looks like she's gonna be elected again as the minority leader, which to me tells me the Democrats aren't backing down, and they haven't learned their lesson. But they didn't think that that was an indictment on their voting, but more or less that it just had a lot to do with unemployment numbers. And I couldn't disagree with that. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. The people spoke very loud and clear about how they felt about his policies, and it wasn't just unemployment. Because if that was the case, more Democrats would have won. And that just, people are dissatisfied. In the direction this country is going. So it's got to change. President Obama's got a lot of work to do, and I think that if he wants to even have a chance of being reelected, he's going to have to work with John Boehner. And again, he needs to call John Boehner into his office and talk and get an idea of what John Boehner's goals are at this point. What do they think we can do to fix the country? Listen to some other ideas, and he's going to have to do that if he wants to, move forward. So I'm going to play very shortly. I'm going to play my Alan West interview. I'm waiting to see if I can get in touch with Mike Bishop. Hopefully we can have him on the show real soon here. So I'm reaching out to him right now. Give me a call. Again, this is my 1-year anniversary show. If you're listening in, feel free to call me, 347-996-3175. We had a few people calling in early while I was doing an interview, and we also had someone that called a few times and we never got in touch. So if you're listening in, give me a call, 347-996-3175. I want to hear from you. I don't know if people heard the interview earlier with Lenny McAllister and Kevin Jackson. If you did, give me a call. I'd like to hear what you had to say about it. There's a lot of people out here that are split on that issue, and so I'd like to hear from both sides. I've talked to Kevin Jackson before, so I know where he stands, and from an entertainment standpoint, he's different. So I wouldn't do that, and I wouldn't feel comfortable talking about that man's wife like that, especially in a negative light. It's not to say that at a point or another someone hasn't cracked jokes, but again, not in a negative light like that, and not to call someone ugly and things like that. I just think that was, that was wrong. So maybe Kevin will come on the show at some point, and we can talk about that again. But I kind of heard where he was talking with Lenny. I know where he comes from, and that's his prerogative, and this is what makes this country great. It also shows that all black conservatives don't think one way. It can get very interesting. So give me a call. I want to hear from you, 347-996-3175. I'm going to go ahead and give Senator Bishop one more call here and see if we can get him on the air. Call-in number again is 347-996-3175. I'm about to reach out again here to Mike Bishop. Hopefully we can get in touch with each other. He might have had some kind of scheduling conflict, but hopefully we can get him on the show here. Bishop. Mike Bishop, we're gonna hopefully we can get in touch with you a little bit later. If you're still out there, give us a call. 347-996-3175. Give me a call. That's the call-in number. Give me a call. Let's celebrate a little bit. Again, this is my 1-year anniversary show. We changed it from Conservatives Cool Talk Radio to the Wayne Bradley Show because I wanted to more reflect not just the conservative standpoint, but I want to be able to reach out to people and bring other guests on the show that we can have a more open debate. A lot of people are scared to come on the show. I reached out to some different liberals, and they don't even want to come on the show because of the title. So I changed the title again to maybe get more people to listen in and not be turned off strictly by the title of the show. I make no bones about where I stand and where I stand politically and philosophically. I'm proudly conservative, and I don't have a problem saying that. But I think it's important that we get an open panel of ideas. It's no fun just to have all the guys that agree with you all the time. I like to get in a good debate. I was trying to get Mark Lamont Hill on here tonight. He was on the show before, and it was a good time because again we had different ideas, but we were able to talk about them intelligently without getting personal, without making it ugly. So give me a call if you're listening in. 347-996-3175. I'm going to go ahead in a minute here and play. I would consider probably one of my favorite interviews of the year. Someone who I look up to, a hero for this country. Someone that I'm sure some people are going to be pushing for him to run for president in 2012. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll see. It's going to be an interesting year. So I'm about to play my Alan West interview very shortly. If you're listening in, give me a call, 347-996-3175. So I'm going to go ahead and play the Alan West interview. If you're listening in, this was an interview I did earlier in the summer before he won, but he talked a lot about what he wanted to do when he was elected to Congress. So let's go ahead and listen in on that interview with Alan West. And thank you this morning for joining me on Conservatives Cool Talk Radio. I have a very special guest with me today, someone who I consider a personal hero of mine and the Patriot, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Welcome, sir.
Well, thanks so much, Wayne, for having me, and greetings to your listening audience.
Thank you. I want to first say thank you for coming on the show. I know you have such a busy schedule. So far, obviously you've become what I would consider a national star. How have you enjoyed this campaign so far?
Well, I think it's a great campaign, and you say national star. I mean, I don't consider myself that. It's very humbling, and it's an incredible honor to be considered all across the country as a person that is the right type of voice and leader to make a difference in our country right now. So it's a huge responsibility, but when the American people look to you for being a person that can go and create viable solutions for this country, I'm more than willing, and that keeps my energy level up.
Do you think a lot of that commitment comes from your extensive time in the military?
Well, of course it does, and it's not just my time in the military, but it's a legacy of service that goes back to my father in World War II, my older brother in Vietnam, and the 22 years that I served, and I passed that torch on to my young nephew, who is a Captain Herman West III, serving in the United States Army right now. So it really does come from that commitment of our family to this country.
And I remember hearing you saying in your speech that you continue that oath, even though when you were in the military, you gave the oath, and you continue it to this day, right?
You absolutely do. And what I tell folks is there's no statute of limitations on it. And that's truly the measure of a person that's a servant of this country and not someone that's just going to Washington, D.C. to be served.
Right. And so if elected to Congress, what will be one of the first things you'll do if elected to Congress?
Well, I think the most important thing is our economy. I think it starts with reforming our tax code, our tax system. The progressive tax system lends itself to class warfare, and I think that we have to get away from that. I'm a proponent of a flat tax to be instituted and to lower the personal income tax rate and also the corporate business tax rate. I think that we need to eliminate the capital gains dividend and the death tax, which is due to come back. And I think a great way to stimulate our economy is to use a suspension of payroll tax until we get the right economic indicators. But also, I will seek to get on the House Armed Services Committee because I think the rules of engagement have to be examined and analyzed. I think that it provides the initiative to the enemy and not to our soldiers. And speaking of which, I mean, we have soldiers that are sitting in Fort Leavenworth that I think have been unjustly imprisoned, namely First Lieutenant Michael Behenna, and I think one of the key things I'm going to seek to do is get those guys out of Fort Leavenworth.
Do you think with the way this current administration is operating that they're treating our soldiers and even with the CIA, they're treating them almost as the enemy combatant and not the actual terrorists?
Well, you bring up a great point, Wayne, in that I think it was 2 weeks ago, the New York Times, 2 or 3 weeks ago, New York Times wrote a piece about how we have instituted a pledge policy whereby fathers or tribal leaders can come in with a pledge that an individual will no longer support the Taliban, and we're releasing them on that, I guess on that recognizance. And so when you have a system whereby we're releasing people who have attacked our soldiers, maybe even killed our soldiers in some instances, but yet we're imprisoning our own, or we're trying to court-martial these SEALs for, allegedly punching a guy, we're upside down in our country.
Do you think a lot of that is at this point, is it a reflection of the current administration? He seems to have an issue with, I would say, the military, police officers in general. Is that a reflection of him and this current administration?
I think that it is a reflection of the current administration, but I think that it is something that is a holdover from the previous administration. The rules of engagement were established initially under the Bush administration, but the Obama administration has taken it to an incredible degree and also continued the prosecution of our CIA agents and also our servicemen and women has just made a bad situation even worse. So I think that there are many things that this administration is doing that flies in the face of the military. Not going to Arlington National Cemetery.
Right.
On Memorial Day was one. There was nothing that was said, no message that was sent out from this administration on the 6th of June, which was the 66th anniversary of D-Day. And this past Monday was Flag Day, and also it was the 235th Army birthday. You heard nothing coming from this administration. And don't get me started about this Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal. The service chiefs asked for that to allow them to conduct a review, but this administration, of course, the House of Representatives, thought that special interest was more important than the interests of our men.
Is that something that frustrates you? Because as the president came in, he said that he would not be the one looking out for special interest groups, but it appears that he's gone in the exact opposite way, whether it be with the homosexual, the whole don't ask, don't tell, unions. Has he totally just broken the promises that he made to the American people?
Well, this president has proven that he is nothing more than a political hack and a liar. And I think that's even starting to frustrate the people on the left who are not getting what they wanted. So, when you elect a community organizer, you get a community organizer sitting in the White House, a person that is so far over their head, not able to make a decision. The only thing he looks at is bullying and establishing commissions and promoting a very liberal, progressive legislative agenda that is the antithesis of who we are in the United States of America.
With the whole thing, I spoke with Alario Pantano on that last night, and we both were talking.
Yeah, great young man.
Yeah, we were both talking about this trial in New York, and I asked him, and I asked you the same thing. Do you believe that this trial is more about putting the CIA and the former the Bush administration on trial than it is actually trying these terrorists?
Yes, you're absolutely right. And the most important thing that we got to understand, Wayne, is that the Geneva Convention is very specific about non-state, non-uniform belligerents being captured on the battlefield. They are not deserving of rights, and definitely not deserving of our constitutional rights and their quote-unquote day in court. And if we continue this practice of taking terrorists and bringing them to the United States and lawyering them up, we're just going to get more terrorists because they believe that we are displaying weakness and we're not serious about doing what is necessary to to find them and destroy them, pursue them, and to win this fight against Islamic totalitarianism and terrorism.
Now, another question I would ask you is that we seem to be very passive with Iran and all the terrorist states, but yet we're being, I would say, tougher to Israel at this point. How do you explain that, and what would be your stand on how we protect Israel?
Well, by protecting Israel, they're our staunchest ally. They're our best ally in the Middle East. They're the sovereign state that we were the first to recognize in 1948. And for this president to sit there with Mahmoud Abbas and have photo ops, which he did not do with Prime Minister Netanyahu, for the United States for the first time to side with the United Nations in condemning Israel is something that is absolutely heinous. And for us to not understand that Hamas is a terrorist organization that has in its charter the destruction of the state of Israel, and to continue to placate and try to have appeasement policies with Iran is only going to lead to eventually the, going into the abyss of what could potentially be a great war in the Middle East. So I think that, once again, it comes back to not having a person that can stand upon conviction and commitment and can display strength. And so in the Middle East, he is totally disrespected and disregarded. And I think that today there's a poll that is coming out talking about how the Muslim world has no respect for this president after all of his apologizing tours that he did in Turkey and also in Cairo, Egypt.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people understand in their culture they don't respect passiveness. They respect.
They don't. Absolutely right. They respect strength and might, and we're not showing that. And there are some people in the world that you just got to put the hammer down on, and that is what the tribal Middle Eastern culture understands, and all this talk and compromise and negotiation gets you nowhere.
Yeah, their whole understanding is if you sit down and talk to them, that means they've already won. They have already,
absolutely. You're tracking 110%.
Thank you. Now, another issue that has obviously been on the horizon here is the illegal immigration issue. How do you feel about the law in Arizona, and what would you do to obviously improve the illegal immigration situation here in America?
Well, I'm thoroughly behind Governor Brewer and the state of Arizona 100%, and I came out and made that statement visibly, and I even spoke out against some members of the Republican Party who were siding against Governor Brewer. I thought that was not appropriate, and I thought it was very dangerous to the establishment of the rule of law, and that's who we are. Illegal immigration is illegal. That means the people are coming here breaking our laws, and if we do not enforce our laws, if we become a lawless society, then this great constitutional republic will be lost. And we have problems down here in Congressional District 22, which is what I'm running for, with the establishment of some sanctuary cities already. Jupiter is one. Lake Worth is becoming one. So I think that what Governor Brewer has done, many other states are going to start looking at, and I think that that's something also here in Florida we ought to be looking at, because it is about honoring our Constitution. Article 1, Section 8 addresses the repelling invasions. Article 4, Section 4. And yesterday we saw with their national parks that they are going to be closing down because of the threat of illegal immigration. And it's a sad day when our American citizens have to live under, a dark cloud and a threat from illegal immigrants, and our federal government is not doing anything about it. And I guess, according to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, the federal government is even going to pursue suing sovereign states.
Right, that's what I did. I saw that yesterday too. Now, do you think we should make it a federal issue, or do you think we ought to let each state handle it the way they see fit?
Well, the bottom line is this: if the federal government does not uphold the mandates of the Constitution, which to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, promote the general welfare of citizens, and provide for the common defense, if they're not willing to do that, then the 10th Amendment is very clear: the states have the right to do it. So for the Obama administration to say that they're going to take legal action or sue the state of Arizona, they need to look at themselves in the mirror and understand that they have not done anything, and the states are operating within their rightful constitutional mandates to step up to the plate.
Do you just out of curiosity, do you think though that with that state bill that it does possibly lend itself to some people being harassed or being profiled at all?
No, it does not. And the bottom line is that, why shouldn't we have the opportunity for our law enforcement to ask that question?
Right.
That's what it's all about. Look. When I go to catch an airplane, I get absolutely sick and tired of having to take my shoes off and take the jacket off and dump my pockets. I can't carry a bottle of water with me. I have to have a measure, aftershave and all the, shaving creams and all of this. But, I'm not breaking any laws or anything of that nature. So I think that it gets to a point in the United States of America, it's not racial profiling. I'm sick of hearing that.
Right.
It's about trend analysis. And so we got a problem in this country, and if we keep trying to deny it, being the threat of illegal immigration, being the threat of radical Islamic terrorism, which is existing in our country, we're going to lose our nation.
Right. I mean, bottom line, they have to do it's police work, and that's what they have to do to make sure they're keeping their citizens safe.
Absolutely.
Now, with this oil spill in the Gulf, has that affected your district and your area yet? Has that been something that's creeping its ugly head up on the beaches near you?
Well, it hasn't come around the beaches. We're on the Atlantic coast side, the southeast Atlantic side. My district is a coastal district running from Fort Lauderdale up to Jupiter Inlet. It takes in Broward and Palm Beach counties. So it is a concern if that oil spill were to get into the Gulf Stream and whip around to the East Coast. It is a concern if there is some oil bubble beneath the surface that we're not seeing that could drip underwater. We need to be looking at that. But I think the biggest thing is this moratorium on drilling.
Right.
I believe that we have to evaluate and analyze and assess what happened on the Deepwater Horizon rig. We have to make sure that we institute the right emergency management and incident response procedures so that the fail-safe systems that obviously did not kick in on that platform. We got to do weekly, monthly drills and tests to make sure that that's not the case with our other platforms. But we can't put Americans out of work for 6 months, and we can't sit up here and say that we're just going to give up on developing our own oil resources. But we have to develop the full spectrum of our resources. So I see that as being the issue that we have going forward. Look, if we're not going to do it, that's not telling Russia and China that they're not going to do it.
Exactly.
So we're making ourselves more dependent on foreign energy resources. And we saw with the president's speech the other night, just the same as Rahm Emanuel says, never let a good crisis go to waste.
Exactly.
All this is an opportunity to push this cap and trade agenda, which will destroy our economy, which is what Spain has already shown with these green energy promotion. And once again, make us more dependent upon foreign sources.
Yeah, I was actually listening to someone talk about this bill, and they were actually saying that it would go to the extent of if you were trying to sell your home, that the government might come in and actually do an inspection to make sure you have the right kind of energy-efficient windows. I mean,
yes, you're absolutely right. What you have to currently, you would have to go to what is called the California Green Standard. So you would have to actually get a license for your home from the federal government. You would have to have someone to come in and inspect your home to make sure that it meets green energy efficiency standards before, like you said, before you can sell your home. So once again, we have a federal government that is going way outside the mandates of the Constitution. And this is nothing. This cap and trade is nothing more than behavior modification through taxation, which is just the same as the healthcare law, creating 111 new government agencies, 11 new taxes. This is nothing but a big grab for government.
Do you plan on trying to actually repeal that healthcare bill, or just maybe improve the bill once you're in Congress?
Well, I think the most important thing, first and foremost, the easiest thing to do is not appropriate to that bill, that legislation. So you just let it die on the vine, but then also start looking at how we can repeal it.
Right.
There may be one or two. I mean, protecting Americans with pre-existing conditions, that's a good thing. But most of that bill, most of that 2,000 some odd pages, is nothing more than a socialized medical system. and the expansion of government. It does nothing to reduce the cost, and in the long term, it's going to kill our small businesses.
It can't be an actual reform bill without including tort reform. Would you agree?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the number one thing you have to look at is catastrophic litigation, which is driving up the cost. You talk to any doctor, and they'll tell you that. And so when you look at a state like Texas, which has tort reform there, you see doctors going there. You see medicine being practiced very well. You see the cost being lowered. When you look at a state like Florida, especially down here in South Florida, my district, where you have a large retirement community, doctors are coming here, and doctors are going under. They're being just swamped. So when you look at that aspect, when you look at we did nothing to breaking down the state-by-state restrictions on insurance agencies, when you look at the fact that illegal immigration affects our health care, we really did not do anything to solve this crisis.
Okay. Well, I think those are the things that people need to know. I think it's important, again, that people, the reason I've been having different people throughout the country come on the show and talk is because people need to understand that even though you're in Florida and someone, my listener, might be in California, you affect the laws. Once you're a congressperson, you affect the laws that affect the whole country. I think we learned that from the people up in Michigan when he finally passed that health care bill, that they see how important it is that we have to support the right candidates throughout the country.
Yeah, you got it absolutely right, because it's going to take 39 seats to be won in order to get the gavel out of Nancy Pelosi's hand. And every person that sits there in the House of Representatives, which is the most influential and important body of the legislative body, their vote makes a difference for all of Americans. I mean, I'll be a direct representative of the people of Congressional District 22, but I'll be a voice for all of America. And if people enjoy what you and I just talked about, if they go to www.gowest2010.com, they can learn more about our campaign.
Exactly. Well, I'll tell you what, thank you so much. It's truly been a pleasure having you on the show. I had one more question for you. I see you went to the University of Tennessee. How did you feel when Lane Kiffin left?
Good riddance. One of the things about SEC football is you really should not cross the Mississippi River or the Mason-Dixon line looking for a coach in the SEC. It's a tradition. It's a homegrown type of environment, and I'm glad that we've got Coach Dooley's son coming to be a part of our great program and tradition at the University of Tennessee.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Colonel Alan West. I really appreciate you coming on the show again. Like, you're a personal hero to me. I don't really get too many people that I can say that about, but I really appreciate you coming on the show. Can you give them the website address one more time so they can go on there and get more information and support you?
Absolutely, Wayne. It is www.gowest2010.com, and please sign up to get our email blast or any information, get on our mailing list, because we really love to get our message out. And we're closing in on 25,000 following us on Facebook.
Excellent. Well, good luck with the campaign. I can't wait to see you in November and take that gavel.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
All right. God bless you, sir.
God be with you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that was my interview with Alan West. Again, he's now Congressman Alan West in Florida, and I felt good that I could talk to him. And that's the one person I don't think is going to let us down. The man has integrity, and he knows what he wants to do. And I'm really looking forward to him shaking up some things in D.C. Again, watch for my guy Justin Amash out of Michigan. He's going to make a difference out there too. I've just been blessed to be able to talk to all these great people. And now I guess I'm finally going to get in touch with my guy. He said he thought I wasn't going to call him, but that couldn't happen. So I'm going to give Senator Mike Bishop a call right now, and we're going to bring him on the show. I'll bring the people's champ on the show.
Hello?
Senator Bishop.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so sorry that I missed that call.
Oh no, it's okay. We're on the air now, and like I said, I know sometimes the schedule gets busy, and like I said, we were running all over time. So I appreciate you coming on. This is the 1-year anniversary show. I couldn't do it without you coming on for a little while, so I appreciate it.
I wouldn't miss it. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. There's a lot of things going on out here right now. Today, I had Saul Anuzis on the show, and I had John Yob on here, and I can't believe today John Yob actually came out and supported Saul Anuzis for RNC Chairman. What do you think about that?
Well, the stars are aligning themselves. Who would ever have thought that would have happened just a short year ago when they were on opposite sides of that particular race? But stranger things have happened, and I think that Saul looks like he's got a really strong shot at this.
Yeah, I think he does, and especially if you've got John Yob behind you, it's going to be a tough battle right there. How do you think, personally, how do you think Michael Steele has done as RNC chairman?
I don't have a lot of interaction with the national party. I do most of my work with the state party, but there have been some real hiccups along the way with the current national party chair. And I suppose there's probably room for improvement there. But one thing I would point out is that, regardless if he gets all the accolades for having delivered probably one of the greatest victories in the history of the Republican Party this last election cycle, he still had something to do with it. He was there at the helm, so he's got to get credit for that. And even if it's not full credit, a fraction of that credit is worth a lot of political equity in this process. So, who can complain? The results were great.
Now, I've tried to get this out of you before. I had Saul on here actually a month ago, and he wouldn't tell me then that he was running for RNC chairman. What's going on with Senator Mike Bishop? What's next on the agenda for you, sir?
Well, my term is now up, so I will cease my role in the Senate as of December 31st at midnight. Okay. And I go into the private sector. That's where I'm going right now, and preparing my way for that. And I knew it was coming. I knew when I got into elected office that I'd go back to the private sector. So here we are.
I've heard your name floated around for some positions within the party, possibly for the Michigan chairman position. Is that something that you would consider or even look at?
Sure, I would consider that. I have been looking at the option. The job is one that I think I'm specifically suited for, having just come off the campaign trail for the past 2 years and really working with the grassroots of the party,
right?
And also conducting campaigns for the state Senate. I'm the chairman of the Senate Republican Campaign Committee, and I've had lots of political experience. I've had a lot of campaign experience. I have a lot of fundraising experience. I think I would bring value to that position as chair. But really, when it comes down to, Wayne, is that you got to have somebody that can work with the governor, and it's going to be the governor's call as to who he wants in that position. Okay.
Well, that adds some light to that situation, because, like I said, I've heard a lot of names getting tossed around, but yours has definitely been one of them. Is there anything else? Obviously in the political spectrum, there's the people's champ around here, so I'll put that out there. Is there anything else that you might possibly consider maybe in 2012?
I haven't really put a lot of thought into more political offices. I know I'll always be involved in politics, and I'll always be involved in the party in some way, shape, or form. And I've also offered my services to the governor-elect because I really do believe that I can assist him in making the transition. And hey, he's going to have a huge job in his hands. I don't envy the challenges that he'll face immediately, and I think he's going to need all hands on deck. So I'm going to clear the slate and make sure that I have some time available for him as well.
I just got a question out of my chat room. Someone asked me, how do you feel about Andy Dillon being named the treasurer?
Well, Andy and I have always gotten along well. He and I are friends out of school, and frankly, he's been a great person to work with. But he and I philosophically are so far apart that it's hard to bridge the gap. And I don't know how that's going to work out in the highest cabinet position for this governor. But I will support him and do whatever I can to assist him in the process. It'll be interesting to watch, really, seeing the two parties interact with each other at such a close level. There is nothing more important to our state right now than the state treasurer.
Right.
The state treasurer will be faced with enormous pressure. And so we've got to rally behind our team and whip it into shape real quick. I will watch very closely, believe me, and I will be the biggest critic, but I will also be the biggest supporter. If it works, it works, and I hope that it does.
Right. Were you kind of surprised at all that he would have chose, obviously a Democrat to be his treasurer? I mean, did that come across as a surprise to you, or does that kind of fall in line with kind of the way we were, the way you were feeling about it from the beginning?
It didn't surprise me that there was a Democrat involved in the administration, but when you told me it was Andy Dillon and it was the state treasurer, you could have knocked me over with a feather. I didn't sleep for 2 days. That blew me away. And I don't use that phrase very often, but this is one political move that I did not expect, and it brings with it all kinds of ramifications. And regardless of how I feel about Andy personally, it just shocked me that that was the choice that he made.
Do you think that's more along with the lines he's trying to prove that he's different, that he's going to work with everybody? And do you think that kind of strategy can be successful in the economic climate that we're in right now?
Well, I think the general consensus out there is that we're in such a political environment that nothing gets done. So Governor-elect Snyder has decided to kind of address that head-on by pushing the politics aside and just asking everybody to come in and help. Now, I admire that. I think that kind of inclusion is good in any environment. That's just the way, that's what he's from, the business environment, where you go to your talented people and you say, look, we need to work together. I think there's a certain level of naivete, though, with those who think that we can just call everybody in and expect that it's going to work. Government is a very unique process, much different from the business world.
Right.
And so I'll be interested to see how this relationship works, because it's not the same as what he's used to in the business community, and I'm sure you could attest to that. That it's not exactly the same, and just because a guy works with you doesn't mean that he's looking out for your best interests on that kind of thing. Well, that's unfortunately the world I live in, and you have to be careful with it, and you just have to understand how it works. And you surround yourself with the most talented people that you can find, the most loyal people you can find, and you let them get to work and solve the problems.
And, just out of curiosity, if you did run for Congress, what district would you be in?
If I ever ran for Congress, I'm in the 9th district, but I got to tell you, I don't see myself running. The 9th district. Rocky just ran down here against Peters, and I just that's one of those positions that at my point in my life I've got to young kids and young family. I would not see myself commuting to Washington D.C. for that job.
Right.
I just couldn't do it.
And just like how you mentioned that's the one thing, like I said, when I first met you, that stuck out to me when we were up in Mackinac, that you spent more time with your family and your kids than you did, canoodling with all the politicians. You were with your family, and I respected that. That stood out to me over a lot of things. So I can definitely believe that would play a big decision in that role.
I appreciate that, Wayne. That's really what it's all about in the end. And I've made no bones about it. I don't spend a lot of time in Lansing. I do my job and I come home. And I would recommend that to anybody who's elected to office, that they not spend a lot of time up there, that they spend time with their family and stay grounded, because in the end, a lot of these folks that get elected end up moving to Lansing and just getting sucked up into the world that it's just not reality. And it will change you as a person. It'll destroy families.
I agree with you on that totally. Now I got another question. This probably, like I told John Yob earlier tonight, this is probably my toughest question for you tonight. Can't let any of you U of M guys get away with this. What's going on with your football team up there?
Well, I think we got the offense figured out, but we simply have not figured out how to stop another offense. So I'm not really sure how to answer that question, other than the fact I think we need another year to grow some new defenders out there and bring them in and get some talent. They score 60+ points. Indiana scores 60+ points in a game. That's ridiculous. So I'm hoping Wisconsin doesn't steamroll us this week.
Yeah, as I said, I admire you for your patience. I'm surprised you're not screaming for Les Miles already. I mean, that's the only thing that's going to fix that program at this point.
I've given up a little bit on Les Miles. I mean, he had his chance. He missed out on us. We didn't miss out on him. And what I'm looking at now, I'd like to see Jim Harbaugh back in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, that'd be nice. He made some ugly comments about U of M, a while back. So that kind of put people on his downside a little bit. But you need somebody. I don't believe in the Rich Rod era. I got to say that he's making Michigan State look really good. So I got to thank him a little bit for that. But I can't believe. I like to see good football. They're not playing good football right now. Yeah,
well, I'm a Michigan fan, and I'm a Michigan man, and my kids, my oldest son is old enough to get football now, and I'm disappointed that he's not seen the tradition that I grew up with. And
poor little guy, I feel bad for him too.
I gotta take him to the internet every once in a while and show him YouTube clips the way it used to be.
Yeah, show him some Jamie Morris clips or something, the good old days.
I go back to Anthony Carter and some of my earlier days and watching those games, and Bob Ufer calling the games. Those are the good old days of Michigan football, and those are the games that got me so hooked on the program and the school. And I'm such a huge Michigan fan growing up, and to this day, it's a great school and a great tradition. Right.
Well, I want to thank you again, for coming on the show. Like I said, you came on the show probably about 3 times during my first year. This is my year anniversary tonight. I changed the name of the show from Conservatives Cool Talk Radio just to the Wayne Bradley Show, so I can try to get some more of these liberals to come on here. They were too scared to come on with the title of the show before. So I want to thank you for all your support, for, like I said, always making time to come on here, and I really appreciate it. I hope that we see you in 2012 making some different moves. And again, if RNC, the chairman from Michigan, will be a great position for you too. So I hope to see you continue to represent the people in some sort of fashion, in the state of Michigan.
Hey, thanks a lot, Wayne. I appreciate your support, and congratulations to you on a great year. You're a good man, and we thank you for all that you do for the cause.
Thank you so much, sir. You have a good evening, and like I said, I'll make sure we're going to be following you, and if you have any announcements, you got to come on here and let us know.
Okay, Wayne, I'll do that.
Thanks a lot.
Have a great night.
You too. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Mike Bishop. Like I said, he's the people's champ here in Michigan, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that works out over the next couple of months. I honestly hope to see he runs for the chairman position here in Michigan, because he is the link to the grassroots movement here in Michigan, and you can't ask for a better person, a man of integrity, to represent that position. So thanks again for coming on the show, and I really appreciate that. Now, if you're listening in, I got 5 minutes left on the show. If you want to call in and talk, I got 5 minutes left. This has been my 1 year special, and I appreciate everyone that's listened in. If you ever feel like you want to help out and support the show, again, this is a grassroots thing. Go to the website conservativeiscool.com. I have a donate page. You can donate $5, $10 to help out. It goes towards buying new recording equipment and things of that nature, so I can continue to give you a good show and make some upgrades here and there. But again, more than anything, I appreciate people listening in, people engaging in the conversation. I appreciate all the guests that have come on over the last year. I mean, again, I've had some just amazing people come on the show. Michelle Bachman, Steve King, Mike Rogers, Thaddeus McCotter, Alan West, J.C. Watts, Les Phillips, Bill Randall, like I said, Sean Beelet, Ilario Pantano. That's one of my favorite interviews right there. I love whenever he comes on the show. Ilario, you're always welcome to come back on. I just had an amazing amount of people. Saul, Senator Mike Bishop. These people have come on the show multiple times, and again, we're talking about the possible next chairman of the RNC. He understands the point of reaching out to the small grassroots organizations and the radio shows like myself, because the way the media is being delivered has changed, and the listeners, we make that possible. Thank you again for everyone that's been a part of this. I really feel blessed to have been able to do this, and again, thank you for being supportive of the show. We're going to keep moving forward. Next year, again, part of the format is going to be, I'm a proud Republican, but I want the voice to be independent. I don't want to be, just a talking piece for the Republican Party. I want to represent the people, and that's why I continue to listen to what the folks have to say and what the folks want. So, thank you. I want to give a special shout out to Lexi. She's been over the year. Been on my Twitter family. She's been one of my most supportive people. Kendall, he's been again a great mentor, someone I can look up to, and keeps me on the straight and narrow. Doesn't let me forget about other core principles that I have to deal with and address. I want to thank him. He's been instrumental in that. So, Kendall, if you're listening, thank you, brother, for helping me out. Thank you for, like I said, thanks to all the people that have helped make this possible. Thank you to my wife that supports me and listens to the show and gives me the space and opportunity to do this. We sacrifice sometimes family time and things to make it, to make this show happen. So I want to thank her. Tell my daughters I love them. I do this for them because, again, I want to see just a better country. I want to see, in a better situation. I don't want my daughters to have to feel like they have to move away from America to have a better opportunity. And that's really where I stand on why I do the show. I just want to make sure we get the country in the right direction, and that's what I'm about. And again, it's not about one person. It's about a movement of people. I want to thank Mark up there in Carroll, Michigan, the Carroll Tea Party, for giving me an opportunity. I want to thank David Jones down in Ohio for inviting me down there to speak at that Tea Party. There's just been a lot of people throughout the country that have been supportive. Lenny McAllister, that's my guy right there. He's been unbelievable. He's some of the people I look up to. Troy Rowland, Dr. Tim Johnson from the Frederick Douglass Foundation. It's just been a lot of people that have been instrumental over the last year And I want to thank everyone. If I did not mention you, it's not that I don't appreciate you. It's just that I forgot. And make sure you let me know, because I will thank you. I really do appreciate everyone that's been supportive of this show. So with that being said, I want to say I'm going off here in a few seconds. God bless you. God bless everyone that's listening. God bless America. This is the greatest place to live. This is the only place where we can have the opportunity to speak like this. And if you get a chance, go to the website, conservativeiscool.com, and visit the site, check it out, and donate if you can. Thank you. God bless you. Good night.